Okay, let's dive into this because today's explainer is going to challenge just about everything we're taught about making money. We are breaking down a seriously fascinating masterclass on building wealth from absolute zero. And we're getting this directly from the experiences of someone who started out as a working class kid without a penny to his name and managed to build a massive fortune. Now, here's the absolute best part. The core premise of our source material today is that making millions, it doesn't actually have to take you decades of this slow, grinding progression. You don't have to wait until you're in your 50s to finally enjoy your wealth. If you apply the right strategies, you can accelerate that timeline completely.
To get us there, we've broken this explainer down into 4 actionable pillars. First, defying realistic expectations. Second, embracing calculated risks. Third, harnessing the power of early investing. And finally, diversifying to protect that wealth.
All right, pillar 1, defying realistic expectations.
This is the absolute crucial mindset shift that has to happen before a single dollar or pound is ever made. I mean, have you ever been told to just be realistic and lower your expectations? Well, our source shares this crazy powerful story from his childhood. He's sitting in a lecture theater, right? And the teacher asks the class to write down their dream job, their dream car, and their dream house. So he enthusiastically scribbles down business owner, Ferrari, and a mansion. The teacher's response? She essentially tells the whole class that life is tough, they probably won't ever pick those things, and they need to be realistic. This is literally the system trying to crush your ambition. But here is the major takeaway. If you can't even believe something is possible, you are never going to do the work required to get there. Rejecting this realistic programming is step 1 to building your empire.
And that perfectly brings us to the next point, protecting that ambition. You literally have to put your goals under a glass dome. You need to be fiercely protective of who you listen to. Now, we all know to avoid those fake social media gurus, right? But the source points out a much more insidious threat. Well-meaning people in your own life. Friends, parents, people giving unsolicited financial advice. The logic here is completely bulletproof. If they haven't built a large sum of wealth themselves, why on earth would you listen to their advice on making money? Keep your ambition insulated from anyone who hasn't actually achieved what you want to achieve.
So, once you have the right mindset locked in, how do you handle the inevitable roadblocks? The source outlines a really methodical approach. See, when most people hit an obstacle, they just give up, and that cements this terrible feeling that they just aren't good enough. Instead, force yourself to brainstorm at least 10 totally different solutions to any given problem. Then, you just test them. If one fails, okay, no big deal, you just move to the next. It transforms what feels like a dead end into a simple process of elimination.
Moving right along to pillar 2, embracing calculated risks.
This brings us to the action phase. This is where we break out of the comfort zone. Consider this totally wild comparison for a second. Staying in the cupboard under the stairs versus fighting Voldemort. Think about it. If Harry Potter had just stayed in his safe little cupboard, he never would have defeated Voldemort. Putting yourself in challenging, even downright scary situations is exactly what forces you to grow. Staying completely safe equals zero growth. You've got to step out and face the scary stuff to get the ultimate reward. So the crucial point here is asking yourself this exact question: what have I got to lose? The source shares an anecdote from when he was a 20-year-old carpenter's apprentice. Now, this was his dream job on paper, but his manager bullied him constantly, just handing him all the rubbish tasks. One night, he's sitting on his couch and he asks himself this exact question. He had no wife, no kids, very few responsibilities. Yeah, quitting was scary, but the biggest risk would have actually been staying in a dead-end job with a toxic boss. So he quit the very next day. When you have few responsibilities, taking a calculated risk to increase your income isn't reckless. It's actually the clear, logical choice. Which brings us to a really stark comparison: traditional job loyalty versus job hopping. Growing up, we are always taught to stay loyal to one company, but studies actually show that you are way more likely to build wealth faster by job hopping or upgrading your job every couple of years. Alternatively, if you do pick the employee route, you absolutely must choose a career based on the results you achieve, not just the hours you work. Slow wealth comes from trading your time for a fixed salary. Faster wealth, that comes from scaling your results.
All right, pillar 3, the power of early investing.
Working hard and taking risks isn't enough on its own. Your money has to start working for you. Take the number 10,000. I absolutely love the story behind this.
So, after our source started a wildly successful model shop, he was reinvesting everything into the business and just completely ignoring the stock market. But one day, a 14-year-old kid who was there doing work experience just wouldn't stop talking about stocks. The kid was so unbelievably confident in one particular stock that the source finally decided, okay, I'll risk £1,000 of my own money. 2 weeks later, he asked the kid how much money he'd made. The kid says, I don't get paid. I'm on work experience. The source replied, son, you've made 10 grand today. That stock had literally 10x'd overnight. Now, obviously, that's an extreme example, but it sparked a massive realization for him about the sheer power of compound growth.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why waiting to invest is just a mathematical disaster. Based on a Fidelity study of the past 4 decades, check out how missing just the 5 best trading days reduces your long-term gains by 38%. And if you miss the 10 best days, you literally lost out on 55% of your gains. The reality is, the longer you wait, the harder it is. You have to be in the market consistently to capture those completely unpredictable but critical days of growth.
But how do you actually get started? Our source highlights a few platform non-negotiables. You absolutely need smooth, easy-to-use charts, because trust me, clunky apps will only frustrate you when you're trying to track long-term growth. You need a wide range of stocks and ETFs to spread your risk out. And, crucially, you need paper trading capabilities. This is where you can practice with virtual money. But listen to this massive warning from the source. If you use paper trading, you must treat it exactly like real money. Otherwise, you'll develop reckless habits that will completely ruin you when your actual cash is on the line.
And that brings us to our final section, Pillar 4, diversifying to protect wealth.
Because look, making the money is only half the battle. Keeping it, that's the other half. Take this cautionary tale. This source had a friend who was incredibly wealthy. We're talking literally on the top 50 UK rich list. He threw these lavish parties at a massive mansion. When asked how he made so much, the friend revealed he highly leveraged his investments in a group earning 30 to 50% a year. The source thought, you know what, that sounds way too good to be true, and stayed completely away. 2 months later, that investment group went under. Because they were leveraged, they lost considerably more than they had even invested. The friend lost everything, including the mansion. The lesson here? Never, ever invest in something you don't fully understand.
The ultimate antidote to putting all your eggs in one basket is really quite simple: diversification. It simply means spreading your investments across entirely different sectors and asset classes to reduce your risk exposure. That way, if one sector crashes, your entire empire doesn't go down with it. For stock market investing specifically, our source highly recommends the 3-fund portfolio. It is elegantly simple but incredibly effective. It consists of a total U.S. stock market index fund, a total international stock index fund, and a total bond market fund. This specific balance provides the potential for really great long-term growth while heavily mitigating your risk across different global markets and asset classes.
But diversification absolutely does not stop at the stock market. Look at the deep roots of a true wipeout-proof empire. Physical shops, a distribution company, real estate providing rental income, classic cars, high-end timepieces, stock dividends, and digital affiliate and ad revenue. By spreading assets across entirely different industries and even physical objects, it becomes mathematically near impossible to be wiped out by a single bad decision or a random economic downturn. Which brings us to our final question for today. Are you going to stay realistic, or are you ready to build your empire? We've seen exactly how rejecting limiting advice, taking calculated risks, investing early, and fiercely protecting your wealth can fast-track you from zero to wealthy. The blueprint is literally right here. The only question now is, what are you going to do with it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.